Once you have all of your text separated out into layers and ready to animate, then fire up After Effects. The first thing you're going to want to do is go to File, Import, File, or hit Command I, and then just navigate to the file that you're looking for and select it here, and then make sure you have Import As, change it from footage to composition, retain layer sizes. And if you aren't seeing these options, click on this option button down here. So composition, retain layer sizes, and then click open. And now you can see that After Effects has imported your Illustrator artwork over here in the project panel. So a quick tour of After Effects. The project panel is where everything you imported and everything that you create is going to live. So it's like all of your assets. And then in the center here, right now you see new composition, but this is usually where we'll be seeing what we're creating. Then down at the bottom here, you have your timeline. Let me just open up this lettering file that I just imported from Illustrator. So I'll double click it to open it, and you can see down here in my timeline, I'm now inside this file, and I can see the layers that I had created in Illustrator. And you can see across the timeline we have some time codes, and then you can see you have bars for each of these layers. So where you see one of these bars is where that graphic is going to be visible in your timeline. So if I were to take this lettering layer and then just drag the bar away, you can see that there's no bar here, and so therefore you can't see it at this time in the animation. So I can just drag my playhead along the timeline to see any animation that I've created. So I'm just going to undo that because I don't want to do that. And the first step here is to just click on your lettering layer, right click, go down to Create Shapes from Vector Layer. And then what that's going to do is create a new layer, and you'll see if you go into this layer, you have Contents, Group, and then you have this path. And that's the exact path that we drew inside of Illustrator. So you can actually just delete this original lettering layer because we won't need it. And if you ever needed to get back to it, maybe you messed up something and you want to start over, you can find it under the folder in the project panel called Lettering Layers. It's saved each layer here on its own. I don't actually need to do this on the dot and the I because I'm going to be animating it in a different way. But I do need to do it on the cross and the T. So I'm just going to go Create Shapes from Vector Layer, and delete this Illustrator version. If you're working with non-script lettering, you'll also need to do this step. So this is a good time to mention the composition settings. So in this file, I didn't make a background, and that's okay. I can always make a background in After Effects. But I'm just going to go into Composition Settings, or Command K, to bring up my composition settings. And here I can see that it's automatically made a composition that is the same size as the artboard I had in Illustrator. So that's 1920 by 1080. And my frame rate is set to 30. That's what I usually like to animate on. It's best to always animate on whole numbers to make things easier for yourself, but you can drop down to like something like 24 or even 15 if you want it to be more of a cartoony, jittery look. So I'm going to stick with 30. And then you can also see that the duration of my composition is 3 seconds and 1 frame. But I can always change that later when I know how long my animation is going to be. Then I'm going to go in and change my background color to white, just so it's easier to see. And hit OK. And then I can actually go in and click and drag to select all of my layers, right click, go to Create Shapes from Vector Layer, and it's created all of those shapes at the same time. And I can just go back in and delete the Illustrator layers because I won't need them for now.